Our top focus as of now, it is a season of layoffs. The latest entry in the list of companies cutting off jobs is Spotify. The music giant announced that it would start cutting off jobs as early as this week. According to reports, the company has cut about 9,800 employees. The company has in total about 9,800 employees and has laid off around 38 employees in October last year from its Gimlet Media and Parcast podcast studios beginning in 2019. The company made a massive commitment to podcasting and spent more than $1 billion on acquiring podcast networks, creating software, a hosting service, and getting the rights to popular shows like the Joe Rogan Experience and Armchair Expert. With shares tumbling by 66% last year, investors started getting impatient to see returns. The number of positions to be eliminated wasn't specified with this announcement. Spotify joins tech companies like Alphabet, Amazon, Microsoft, who have cut thousands of jobs recently. And for more analysis, we are now being joined by Adrian Mars from London. He's a tech journalist. Adrian, welcome to the broadcast.
Pleasure to be here, Priyanka.
Right. Another company seems to bite the bullet. We've been hearing about layoffs ever since we got into 2023. Will there be any respite from layoffs anytime soon?
It certainly doesn't look like it. I mean, certainly most of the big companies have already announced. So Microsoft have shed 5% of their workforce, colossal 10,000. Google are shedding, 5% of their 10,000, I should say. Google, no, it is 10,000, yes. Google are losing 12,000, they're shedding 6%. Meta, 13%, that's the company formerly known as Facebook. Amazon have shed a colossal 18,000 staff. We don't know how many Spotify are losing. And Twitter, of course, more than anybody, bigger portion than anybody else, they've only got 2,300 employees left. They've lost about 70%. Right. But of course, they're an exceptional case. They are now burdened with 13 billion of debt after Musk took them over. So that's a bit different. But the tech industry is very much subject to big swings. In this case, it's consumers who cut back on entertainment spending, and they cut back on IT spending when the economy is poor. You can delay buying a new computer on the whole, delay buying new software, and one of the first things to go is services like Spotify and streaming video services and the like. For companies, though, it's kind of similar. They are hit by big swings in online advertising. Companies spend a lot less on advertising. They make less from advertising when consumers and other businesses are spending less, so the return is smaller, so that gets cut back, and of course they can delay their IT spend as well. And on top of these big numbers, what we don't see, of course, is the contractors who have lost their jobs, the temporary technical IT staff who form a big part of these workforces. And although, that comes with the territory, they expect, they're hired on the basis that they can be got rid of at a moment's notice. They're hit pretty hard during these times because huge numbers of these freelancers flood onto the market. Right. So it's very difficult for them to find another job.
Adrian, just talking about these layoffs that have kick-started the year 2023 with, there's a lot of talk about shareholder value versus stockholder value. There's also a lot of questions being asked about the intrinsic value being offered by all these tech companies. There's no tangible asset as such. Could it be a case of too much growth too soon, which could now be sort of evening out?
Yeah, and that's been a feature of tech since the days of the tech booms decades ago. So, yes, for one thing, they're very much subject to consumer share buying whims. So people tend to buy shares in companies they've heard of and understand. So they tend to be overvalued compared to the more boring, prosaic sort of stock that is less exciting and might provide slower but longer term growth. And yeah, it's very much based on exponential growth. Often these companies have been for a good while, growing incredibly fast. They've seen the number of users they have double over relatively short periods, but that can never go on forever. A lot of these companies are reaching a mature stage, or have reached a mature stage, particularly companies like Meta, for example. Where you see, pretty well everybody who's got a PC in the world is using Facebook
right.
to something, more or less, not. So, these things bottom out, and often sort of the more naive shareholders tend to ignore this. It's the same with companies like Tesla. It's an exciting, shiny company, but it's colossally overvalued. Compared to its rather more boring competitors like General Motors and
absolutely.
The like. Because
those are very interesting points you've raised. I think there's a lot of sheen attached to these companies, which seems to be wearing off at this point. Thank you so much for all your inputs, and thanks for joining us on WION at this hour.
Absolute pleasure.
WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.